Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. First of all, I hope you had a great weekend. It was pretty rainy here where I'm at, but I spent a lot of time doing honeydew stuff and spending time with my new granddaughter and other grandchildren. It was a pretty cool weekend for me. And another person apparently that had a pretty good weekend in spite of some pretty serious illness is the president himself. You know, it's never boring if you're around Donald J. Trump. And I'll explain that in just a moment. And then we're watching you. And you'll understand we're watching. We're going to be watching people at the polls. Poll watchers, oh my God, we're going to have people watching the votes come in on November 3rd or even before. And it's a sinister plot. Not, but we'll explain. And then if we have time, we're going to get into Hollywood. Is it on its deathbed? Is Hollywood literally on the verge of not existing anymore? And we'll explain what that means. But before we go any further, I got to talk about my sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. We're live every day, Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time in the Big Daddy Studios. Glad to be here. They sponsor the show, and you can help me by going directly to our sponsorship link. No matter when or where you're watching the video, look above it, and you will see a description of the show. And in that description, there is a link to our sponsors, Big Daddy Unlimited. For virtually a free trial, it's only 99 cents for the first month. Cancel at any time. Then it's $10 after. We get $4 of that proceeds, and we use it to improve the show and spread it far and wide. But what you get is factory direct pricing on anything that has to do with the Second Amendment. From guns and ammo, yes, actual guns and ammo delivered directly to your home, to thousands of other items that are tactical in nature, or even swag that promote guns and the Second Amendment. If you have any interest whatsoever in that, you need to check it out. Our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. Please help the fighters. As I tell people all the time, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support fighters. And if you've watched my show any length of time, you know that here at John Martin Talks, we're fighting for you on a daily basis. All right, we're going to start with our first story. And it is all about the Trumpster, President Trump. And yes, as far as I know, President Trump is still your president. I got to tell you a really quick story before we get into this article. I've told you a little bit about my wife, man. She is something else. Well, she was in the supermarket this weekend, and she's of mixed race. She's black, at least half so. And she was talked to by some women that she knows that are black women, and they got her in the store. They know she loves Trump, and they said, I guess you heard that President Trump has got that COVID, right? And she turned around and looked at him. Yeah, I heard that he's got the COVID, but have you heard the good news? And they said, well, what's that? Said, well, he's still going to be your president for 4 more years. So my wife, man, I love her. She is on top of it. She is a Trump supporter. She was in love with Trump even before me. All right, let's get into this article. A Washington Post, infectious Trump briefly leaves hospital to greet fans as confusion continues over his health. So Trump is not only still your president, but he is out and about, contrary to what CNN, we'll get into that in a minute. I'll start, before we get into the meat of this story, what they're talking about here is Donald Trump's health. Of course, I'm sure unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you know that Donald Trump has tested positive for COVID-19 and that he was originally quarantining in the residence at the White House, but has subsequently been admitted to Walter Reed Hospital, where they actually have a section, a suite, if you will. It's pretty sweet. If you got to be in the hospital, that'd be a good place to be. For the president, not just Donald Trump, but for the president to enable, and this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand, or at least the media doesn't seem to understand it. The purpose of going to Walter Reed is twofold. One, obviously, he gets the best medical care possible there. And secondly, enabled the president to function totally like he was on Air Force One, for instance, even in the hospital. That's what this is purposely set up to do. Not just for Donald Trump, but for the president, the office of president, whoever happens to be holding. And yes, Donald Trump is still your president. So he's in Walter Reed. Well, there was all kind of speculation into, how bad was he? Is he on his deathbed and everything else? So President Trump doing what the Trumpster does, he actually went on a ride in front of thousands of supporters who had impromptu gathered. Literally at one point, I don't know about when he did his ride, but I saw at one point there were at least 5,000 people. It's like a mini rally for Trump in front of Walter Reed. And as of right now, it still is. I looked at it again this morning. But President Trump did an unannounced drive-through with a mini motorcade where he was totally in a mask with a couple of Secret Service officers. We'll give you more details in a minute. But he was supporting the crowd. So I'm going to play this very brief video that kind of shows what the president was doing yesterday, and then we'll get into the meat of the story. Check it out. President Trump, you can clearly see him doing that. Now, I first saw this on CNN, actually, and apparently CNN broke the story because they had cameras like set up in this one area, and I'm sure they were identified as CNN. And from the first video I saw of it, it looked like the motorcade, the president, if you want to call it a motorcade, a couple of SUVs, literally stopped. It seemed like for 10 minutes, but it was only about 15 seconds in front of the CNN cameras and just went like, hey, how y'all doing, man? But let me tell you, man, I was talking about this with my son yesterday, and he agreed with me. I fully expect the president to win another term, but let's just say he doesn't. And I'm feeling festive today. I don't know about it. That's why I wore this Hawaiian shirt that my wife gave me, by the way, because I'm feeling pretty good today. But even worst case scenario, and it would be terrible if Donald Trump didn't win re-election and Biden got in there. God help us. But even if the worst case scenario happens and President Trump is not our president again, hadn't it been one heck of a ride? And I don't mean that in any negative way. I'm just saying, what a guy we have for president, man. To me, and the mainstream media just hates him for it. But everything they were saying yesterday about what they hate about Trump, they were hating on Trump. I got a man crush on. I'm loving it. They just don't get us. They don't get us at all. They don't understand what the MAGA movement is all about. They don't understand Trump love. They just don't get it. But as I say, no matter what happens, and I'm praying for the president, not only for his health, but 4 more years. But if it doesn't happen, man, have we had one heck of a ride. Has it been fun to be proud to be an American again? Has it not been just joyous? And this is the left has no joy. They have none. But they don't understand Trump love. They don't understand why, the party like it's 1999 at every Trump rally. They don't get it, man. They'd rather be for hiding Biden or whatever. But at the end of the day, and like I say, I don't say this with any negativity at all, but no matter how long we have President Trump, it ain't going to be long enough. It ain't going to be long enough, even if he gets 4 more years, because there ain't nobody like this guy. And it's unbelievable. And I am just so glad that, and not only privileged to be an American, but to be alive at this point in time, man. So I know we got a lot of problems. Yeah, we've got the COVID, all that kind of stuff. The president, it seems to be doing well. And I'm going to get into the story in just a second, but I feel like being on a little joyous rant. And yeah, he could succumb to this. He's not out of the woods yet by any measure. But it has been one heck of a good time to be alive and be an American and be a patriot and being a Trump supporter. I just had to say that. It's not boring being anywhere close to DJT, man. JMT loves some DJT, if you can't tell. The White House continued to back to the story, provide limited and contradictory information about President Trump's health on Sunday, saying that he had begun a steroid treatment after twice suffering bouts of low oxygen, true, but at least reportedly so, but also contending that he is doing well and could soon be discharged from the hospital. Some reports as early as today where he is being treated for the novel coronavirus. So where's the contradiction? Where's the contradiction in anything, even in that paragraph? I don't see any contradiction there. The president can't he be doing well and be in a serious situation at the same time? Really? I mean, can't you be upbeat and sick at the same time? Or do you just have to be like, ooh, all the time? I don't know. President Trump, man, I got a feeling that he'd be just overjoyed no matter what. He just is. He's not a gloom and doom guy, man. He's not a negative Nancy. He just isn't. Adding to the confusion about his status, Trump briefly left Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda to wave to supporters from a motorcade. We showed you the video. After releasing a video on Twitter thanking people who had gathered outside the facility. There's rumors, actually, that Donald Trump gave pizza to the people, not during the parade or whatever he had out there, but that he sent down. I don't know if that is. But it is Trump love. It is Trump love, man, that they don't get it. Listen to this paragraph. We're getting great reports from the doctors, Trump said in the video before promising a little surprise to his supporters. It's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID. Now, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for all you snowflakes out there, I gotta take a little sip here. I'm John Martin, not Dean Martin, so don't worry. But I gotta say this clear to you snowflakes out there in the crowd, because you're gonna melt when I say this. Do you know that Donald Trump is never going to die? Never gonna die. Donald Trump is never gonna die. Now, I don't mean he's superhuman or he's a vampire and he's gonna live forever, but the idea of President Trump is never going to die. It is going to be with us forever. Whether or not President Trump is reelected or not, and I believe he will be, especially if you do your job. You know what that is, right? Campaign like he's 2 votes behind, and the next 2 people you see going to put him over the top. We do our job. Trump's going to do his job. I never worried about this. He'll get reelected. But like I say, even if he don't, he ain't going nowhere. Because even if something were to happen to him, first of all, if he loses, he's still going to be yapping in their ear. You think he's just going to go away? And the whole concept of Donald Trump is with us forever, probably, but certainly for a long, long time. Because the impact that he has made on this nation, whether you love him, hate him, or whatever, he has made an impact. And it isn't ending. Even if the Trump movement is not ending. Even if 4 years from now, when Donald Trump is out of the White House, it's not ending. I hate to tell you snowflakes this, but I'm feeling more energized. Maybe it's just me, but I get a sense by it's unscientific, and I'm not stating it as a fact algorithm. But let me just tell you, I'm getting a feeling that the Trump supporters, if it's possible, are more energized than ever. That 2016 pales in comparison. I'm seeing Trump signs in places I've never seen them before. I mean, I live in a very liberal area here, and it's Trump City right now, man. It's everywhere, everywhere. Now, does that mean he's going to win? Not necessarily. But I can tell you what, Trump people are fired up. Absolutely. I almost hate to say that because I don't want to scare the left so hard that they get super energized. But Donald Trump, man, he ain't never going to die. The man might, but the idea, because Trump himself, keep this in mind and we'll move along. Trump has always said this was bigger than him. Always. They talk about it's all about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has always said that it is about you. And that he is basically the messenger, that it is about you. And guess who they fear more than Donald Trump, the mainstream media and the snowflakes? They fear you. They fear the MAGA people that put him in office. Make no mistake about that. Dr. Conley, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call him Donald. Dr. Conley, President Trump's doctor, continued to avoid, according to this article, directly answering specific questions about Trump's health Sunday, even as he revealed that the president had been given dexamethasone, a steroid that is typically reserved for severely ill coronavirus patients needing oxygen. So, it could be that he's seriously ill about that. He certainly looks good in the times we've seen him, but that could be, people can be propped up. Look at Joe Biden. That tells you all you need to know about being propped up. But so what if he's receiving a care above and beyond what someone else would get? Isn't that what you would expect the President of the United States to get, no matter who it is? But Dr. Connally openly admitted, according to this article, withholding truthful information about Trump's plummeting blood oxygen levels Friday, indicating he did so, and oh, this is a crime right here, indicating he did so to put a positive spin on the president's improving condition. A positive spin. So he didn't come out and go, Trump's gonna die. I mean, anything short of that is, he might as well have been quiet, right? But imagine that. The left doesn't like anything positive. When was the last time you heard anything from the left that was positive, from the Democratic Party that was positive? About the only positive thing they say is Trump might be dead. I mean, I guess that's positive for them. But Dr. Connally went on to say, he said, I was trying to reflect the upbeat attitude that the team, the president, that his course of illness has had. Right now, any doctor worth their salt will tell you that one of the most important things for any patient is positivity, to feel like that they have a life worth fighting for, that they have a fighting chance. Anytime someone has a grave illness, whether it be COVID or cancer or whatever, one of the most important things is the attitude of the patient. Any doctor will tell you that. So what do you want doctors to come around and go, well, I'm sorry about your look, man. It don't look good for you. Here's Hillary Clinton. One way to make sure the president survives, this just popped in my head. I think one way to make sure that he never stops breathing is to bring Hillary in there and tell President Trump, say, look, Mr. President, if you stop breathing, Hillary's going to give you mouth to mouth. Then he would never die for sure, man. But the doctor went on to say, I don't want to give any information that might steer the course of illness in another direction. So he doesn't want to be a negative Nancy. And in doing so, it came off that we were trying to hide something which wasn't necessarily true. So the press, man, is just crazy. I mean, think about this. They did a full-blown story. I've seen it all over the weekend before this drive-by thing he did, which they just went unhinged. I can't wait for Trump 2020, for Trump is not only unhinged, but unleashed, baby. Unleash Trump. Unleash the Kraken man in 2020. That's what we need. But Trump signed, apparently, when he was in Walter Reed, he was doing a photo op. There's nothing wrong with doing it. It's like, that's a sin, but politicians do photos. And he signed a blank piece of paper. At least it apparently looked that way. I don't know about you. I got no issue with that whatsoever. It doesn't mean, all these signing ceremonies where he actually signs something that's real, they're all for show anyway, right? The actual, it's like, what do you do? Okay, this is the one and only copy of the Abraham Accords, that he's going to get the Nobel Prize for, or should anyway. And, we're going to frame it up. It's like, it's crazy, man. So what if it was a blank piece of paper? He's he's just trying to send a message of positivity. What is wrong with that? But it was like a major news story that he signed a blank piece of paper. I don't know if you've seen the video where he was signing blank stuff for the firefighters and the hurricane and all that down in Louisiana a while back. And he was telling them, hey, I signed this. Give me something to sign. I signed it. He said, put it on eBay. You get $10,000 right away. I mean, he was giving that out to the first responders and everything and the volunteers. So what? I just don't care about it, man. I really don't care how many people Trump had as an inauguration. I know I was there, and I'd like to be at the next one. That's all that matters to me. But listen to this next paragraph. You want to hear how biased and how crazy the media is, and how they maybe it's just me, but they just think so much differently about the situation than I do. Listen to this. The episode continued what has been a days-long torrent of falsehoods. So the doctor being upbeat is a falsehood. Not really. Obfuscation, evasion, misdirection, and imprecision from those surrounding Trump as he faces the greatest threat to a president's health in decades. I guess, that little thing that happened to Ronald Reagan where he got shot is, wow. From the chief White House doctors to the president's chief of staff, The inability to provide clear, direct, and consistent information about Trump's condition has been widespread since the coronavirus began rapidly circulating in the West Wing. So let me ask you, did you ever feel, these are my words, I'm just asking, and chime in on Facebook wherever you listen to. Good morning, by the way. Howdy, how you guys doing? I'm on Facebook on multiple channels. Of course, John Martin Talks Facebook page. Like it, share it with others. We're also live on YouTube every morning. We need more listeners there. Spell it out. John Martin Talks on YouTube. It'll pop up. Archive our show there. We're live every morning on America's Voice News Facebook page, but they're also put us on their streaming service, excuse me, as a late night broadcast. If you haven't checked into America's Voice News, you really need to do so. And they are all things Trump, and they're a great alternative to all the BS you see on other networks. We're on their streaming services on Apple, Roku, Fire Stick. You can download the free apps on your Android, your iPhone. We're on Roku as well. Channel 219, Dish Network, and yes, excuse me, on the Pluto. Let me catch my breath here. I don't need a mask. We're also on Pluto Network as well. But check us out there. I'd really appreciate it. But let me just ask you, and chime in on whatever network, Facebook page or whatever. I'll respond to you as quickly as I can. Did you ever once really felt misled, other than by maybe the left that kept talking about the president might be dead? Oh, you know, see, the witch is dead or whatever. I never once felt misled. I knew from the beginning that COVID was serious. The president, they announced he had it. He was quarantined in the residency at the White House, and then he went to Walter Reed, and then he did this thing. Let me just tell you this: the president has, once he started quarantined at the residence, from what I could see, he's been quarantined the whole time. You know, you can be quarantined and not be in the same room at all times. I mean, the president is isolated all the time, right? It's one of the things they always talk about is presidents getting out of the bubble, right? So the president's been quarantined the whole time. I mean, this idea. But have you ever felt misled? Tell me anybody who felt misled. And I'm not saying that you weren't, but I can just tell you, and I follow this stuff pretty closely, I never felt like I was being misled at one single time. Not by Trump, that's for sure. Trump, his doctors, and White House aides sought to portray him as improving and largely unencumbered by the virus that killed more than 209,000 Americans. Oh my God, are they saying we should have hope? They better not. White House aides emphasized that Trump was continuing to work while at Walter Reed, casting him as a triumphant warrior. So really, I guess nothing less than Donald Trump dying is going to be satisfactory. It's only they're saying he's still alive, man. But Donald, this is what they wanted was this Halloween picture here. We got the Halloween picture I put up there. That's what they wanted. They wanted to see Trump and Melania like this. This is what the mainstream media, anything less than that picture right there is like misleading, man. But old Billy Bob tells me we got an actual thing. Billy, if you haven't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He kind of keeps me straight. He has a Twitter handle, by the way, which is another place you can check out our show. His is at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. Check us out. We're trying to get a little bit more involved in Twitter. But Billy Bob tells me we've got a picture directly from Walter Reed. Yes, this is an exclusive on JMT. We actually have an X-ray of President Trump to show you. Can we show that? There it is, man. There's the X-ray of President Donald Trump, man. You saw it here first on JMT, man. Well, wait a minute. I got to be careful here because Algorithm now. Algorithm, if you don't know who Algorithm, he's like the strongest guy in social media. Algorithm will get you, man. And he's all over Twitter and Google and YouTube and certainly Facebook. I mean, Facebook is like the home of Algorithm. I got to tell you, Al, this is a joke. Just so you know, this is a meme. They call it a meme. You can fact check it all you want. It's a joke, okay? Because I get fact checked for jokes, man. If you hadn't figured it out, I'm serious, but I like to be seriously entertaining. Lighten up, man. I'm feeling good. This is a joke. Okay, now I feel adequately to move on. Because it's like on the left, we have to explain. I mean, the left, they don't have to explain anything. But the right, man, I literally got to tell you, it's a joke. You know, that's crazy. In Twitter video, Trump said he has spent part of his time at Walter Reed visiting wounded warriors and first responders, but did not provide details about how those patients were protected against him infecting them with the coronavirus. I'm sure, use your imagination, media. I guess they want you to portray Donald Trump as walking around, I thank you for your service, young man or woman. I mean, God almighty. There's so many ways he could be thanking the troops in Walter Reed. He could be thanking them via Zoom or something, right? I mean, I'm sure he could be calling them up and saying, hey, I'm in the same boat, man. I'm in here with you. I mean, there's so many ways, but they want you to make it sound like that he went around going, well, I'm sorry about your luck, you loser soldiers that got wounded. Take this with you. I mean, it's just crazy. And then they started all this crap about the Secret Service driving him around that, Donald Trump put their lives in peril and everything. Well, first of all, their lives are always in peril. That's what they signed up for. But they had the N95 or whatever masks on and everything else. And don't you know that the Secret Service, they're already quarantined with Trump. It's not like he's been by himself. So they go, he's sick, man. Now we just go, you're on your own, sir. I mean, these people know when they sign up to be in the Secret Service that they're willing to take a bullet from the man, right? And I'm not saying that their health and welfare, I'm not trying to trivialize it, but to act like that the health and welfare of the Secret Service is not part of the equation is absolutely ludicrous. It just makes no sense. But yeah, the people who hate cops, who hate law enforcement, the mainstream media, the progressive leftists and Democrats, they hate everything police, but now they're like, I'm really worried about them Secret Service people. The guys with the guns. It's just crazy. Back to the story. He also implied he understood, talking about the president, the virus better than medical experts after having contracted it. This is what the president said. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This is the let's read the book school, and I get it, and I understand it. So, so the president, they're making a big deal out of him saying, I get it now. Like he didn't get it before. If you actually look at all the things the president did, he's the first world leader to actually react to the Wuhan flu. Yeah, I said it. I guess you're going to ban me on Twitter for saying that. But he stopped flights. He did so. We've gone over this a lot of times. But Donald Trump reacted about as fast as he possibly could. Even Dr. Fauci said he didn't think anybody could have done a better job than the president's done. So, and they hate him for that. But here's the thing. I said on my show Thursday, when it first came out that President Trump had been diagnosed with COVID, I said I wasn't surprised at all. Check out the podcast along the ways I was telling you. I'm not surprised that he got it, but not because the way the media is portraying it, because he was reckless and everything else. I just assume, and you know what they say about that, I guess, but I assume that if this disease is as infectious as they claim it is, that at some point we're all going to be exposed to it for the most part. Some of us will catch it, some of us won't. Some of us will die, most of us won't. None of us getting out alive, period. You don't get out of this thing alive. I hate to tell you that, man. Especially atheists, because they believe when you're dead, you're dead. At least Christians give you an option, right? But I figured we're all going to be exposed to this if you hadn't been already. And I guarantee you, if you're wearing your mask below your nose, or you're wearing one of them cloth masks that I'm guilty of as well, you're definitely going to be exposed. You're already exposed, man. This idea about the old Trump didn't wear a mask, so there's so many people. Do you think that of the 200-some thousand deaths from COVID, that they all didn't wear masks? Did you see, and I'm not picking on him in any way, shape, or form, but did you see where like Cam Newton, the quarterback for the New England Patriots that was off to a pretty good start, he was I've actually met Mr. Newton. He was a former Gator before he went to Auburn. Wish him no ill, but he's tested positive now for COVID. This guy's living in a protected bubble, wearing a mask all the time, getting tested every day, basically, in the NFL, has the best possible care, and he still got infected. I'm not trying to put mask against mask. I'm simply saying I believe, Not saying it's a fact, but it probably is. I believe that we're all going to get exposed at some point if we haven't already. It's just inevitable. Trump told advisors on Sunday that he was getting bored being in the hospital, I bet. And he was tired of watching coverage of his hospitalization because they were being so biased. They were painting it as that he was dying, basically. The ride past supporters was so impromptu that officials in charge of assembling the White House press pool were not even told. Oh my God, the press pool of the White House wasn't told. Well, we got no choice now. We got to impeach 45, right? I mean, if all the other impeachment stuff was ridiculous, but this is serious because he didn't tell the Washington Press Corps. I was watching the coverage this weekend. It was pretty sickening, really. Michael Moore, one of our favorite guys, Michael Moore, literally on MSNBC on old Al Sharpton's show, he actually said that the president, Donald Trump, should get the death sentence. It should be an option. Not die from COVID, not impeach, but that he should be sentenced to death because he might be risking the health of other people. Really. I mean, go look it up yourself, man. I can't over dramatize. You can't over dramatize the left because they are dramatic in general. The decision by Trump, who announced on Friday that he tested positive for coronavirus, to defy public health guidelines and leave quarantine to greet his supporters, confounded medical experts. Let me just tell you, as I said a minute ago, he's been in quarantine the whole time. I mean, the idea that just because he moved from the White House he went by Marine One, by the way, to Walter Reed and then got in this vehicle, he's been quarantined the whole time. I mean, yes, he has the ability to quarantine a little differently than the average Joe. I guess Joe could be in high. Here's the other thing. What's been happening since the virus first hit the scene? Donald Trump's been president, right? He's been active outward being president of the United States. He hasn't gone into the bunker. He hasn't hidden. Joe Biden, and I'm not necessarily even knocking him for this, but Joe Biden's in a different situation. Can you imagine what would life be like if the president, whoever it was, but especially Donald Trump, in the last 6 or 8 months had been like in hiding, basically, had been like never left the White House or wherever, that he'd been in a bunker, and maybe, just if he'd done like Biden has been doing, can you imagine what the spirit of the nation would be right now if Donald Trump had followed Joe Biden and cowered down? He couldn't do that. He's the president of the United States, and by God, I hope he is for 4 more years. There's a difference between being a candidate for president and being the dadgum president. I say that again, can you imagine what the spirit of the American people would be and what our enemies would be thinking, and we got a few, if Donald Trump had acted as president the way Joe Biden has been as candidate? I can't even imagine what it would have been like. But it says that one of Trump's medical team, Brian Garibaldi, said the president could be discharged from Walter Reed as soon as today if he continues to do well. Comments that many medical experts found stunning given the publicly known risk factors. Let me just tell you, man, these guys in the media, I used to think they were just complicit. They were just suffering Trump derangement syndrome. But I'm starting to believe that they're just flat out idiots. I mean, to think that if he's discharged, now how's he going to be discharged from Walter Reed? Let's just assume that he gets discharged today or sometime this week. He's going to get on Marine One and fly back to the White House and go to the residency and be quarantined. I mean, just because he's discharged, it's not like he's going to walk out the front door and pass out the pizzas. I mean, if anybody could, he might, but he's not going to do that. And I guess I used to think that they couldn't possibly believe what I'm about to say. I talked about this a little bit last week. Check out our podcast all the way. Don't forget our sponsor, by the way, Big Daddy Unlimited. Because if something happens to President Trump, you're going to have to be more armed than ever. So check out our sponsorship link at the top of the video in the show description, Big Daddy Unlimited. Check it out. Go there. You help us, help yourself, help the show. You get everything Second Amendment related, from guns and ammo to thousands of other items, tactical and otherwise, delivered at factory direct pricing to your door. Check it out, because you're going to need it more than ever if something happens to President Trump. But these same idiots, I used to think they couldn't possibly believe this, but apparently they actually do believe that China has had fewer deaths from COVID than the United States of America. They actually believe that. I always thought they were just joshing us, they were just doing it for political motives, but I'm starting to believe they actually believe something coming out of China. And what about hiding Biden, man? What's he going to do now? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens behind the president. He seems to be doing better. As I said on my show last week, ultimately, we need to pray for the president, because I do believe that the next 10 to 15 days leading up to the next debate is going to be critical. If the president gets past this and gets a pretty much a clean bill of health, then it is, as it's all Katie bar the door. He's going to win. If he gets deathly ill, I'm not wishing that, but if he did, then everything kind of is in flux. It really is. It really is. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm loving what the president is doing. He ain't hiding. He ain't Biden. And I'm glad of that. All right, we're going to move along. We got a few minutes left. I want to get into this story. This is one from The Guardian, and it's just panic time for the mainstream media, because the Trump army is coming, man. We can't let them win. Activists warn against Trump's voter intimidation tactics. So what is he going to do? It's the Proud Boys are coming out, or the Nazis are showing up to the polls, man. It's crazy. Here's what they say. In an increasingly desperate Donald Trump is aiming to win re-election not at the ballot box, but through voter intimidation, courts, and counting rooms, U.S. activists have warned. So he's increasingly desperate. Did he look desperate? I mean, the man's got COVID. He didn't look too desperate to me. He's like, yeah, man, I hope you enjoy it in pieces. Increasingly desperate. Trailing rival Joe Biden in every opinion poll. I'm going to read this kind of like a Halloween story, right? In every opinion poll, there are fears that Trump, who is now in the hospital after testing positive for coronavirus, is betting on tens of thousands of volunteer, wait for it, poll watchers, potentially including far right-wing militias and vigilantes, as well as loyal Republican politicians in battleground states, to save his presidency. And I would add what the media always adds when Donald Trump said, without evidence. Where's the evidence? We're talking about poll watch. Let me just tell you, I just got to say it as sophisticated as this old country boy can. It is complete and total BS. I mean, come on. Poll watchers. Poll watchers have been happening for forever. Basically, a poll watcher is someone who volunteers. The Democrats do it. The Republicans do it. I don't know about independent. You get trained. You volunteer. You have to be approved by the supervisor of elections. I'm sure every place is slightly different, but in general. And it is a time-honored tradition. You're not up there questioning voters. You're simply watching what the people are doing. And for instance, if there is a controversy over a ballot, like a signature, an address, or something like that, and the clerks are dealing with it, all a poll watcher does is go up there with their clipboard, look at it, doesn't say a thing to the voter. If they do, they're in trouble. But they look at it, and they might mark it down that, such and such a ballot, like that, and they may ask the clerk a question after the fact or something. It's normal. It's everyday normal stuff. But said Latasha Brown, boy, she sounds sinister, right? A civil rights activist and co-founder of Black Voters Matter. I mean, she doesn't look too sinister to me. He's willing to do anything, talking about Donald Trump. He said he's willing to do anything he can to fundamentally, we're talking about poll watchers now, fundamentally undermine democracy, any sense of integrity, any sense of decency, any sense of anything that any normal human being would think is acceptable in a real country. Based on what, Latasha? Based on what? We're talking about poll watchers. The Democrats have been doing it forever. I've been a poll watcher for both parties. I'm going to be a poll watcher now. I mean, they portray that anything that Donald Trump does is way out of the ordinary. Now, he is extraordinary. There ain't no doubt about it. But poll watching, give me a break, man. You talk about fear mongering, man. The threat of poll watchers coming. The threat prompted 12 Democratic state governors. They won't let you go to church, but they're worried about the poll watch. Here comes it's like the Walking Dead of poll watchers. The threat prompted 12 Democratic state governors, glad they could prompt them to do something this week, to issue an unprecedented joint statement defending American democracy and pledging that every valid ballot will be counted. Every valid ballot will be counted. Of course it will. But that's exactly why we have poll watchers, because y'all want to count every ballot, valid or not. A poll watcher would actually look and say, well, John Jones is dead. So the joke is real? It's poll watchers. During Tuesday night's first presidential debate, Trump told supporters, go to the polls and watch very carefully. Da-da-da-da. The evil genius here, man. Republican Party has been asking people not only to be poll watchers, but there is a poll worker shortage. I would encourage people, regardless of your party affiliation, whether you love Trump, volunteer and be a poll worker. It's a civic thing. We need more poll workers. That supervisor of elections are calling out across the country that they need more. But he recycled false claims, this is what they say about Trump, of widespread electoral fraud, and added, I'm urging my people, I said my people, got to be white supremacists, right? I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. So it's a fair election. He'll leave the White House if he loses. What do you got to say it 500 times? But if I see, this is what the president said, if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. Of course. And they're talking about false claims of voter fraud. False claims, there's voter fraud. It seems like on a daily basis right now. I reported this last week. The Heritage Foundation has found over 1,000 cases of voter fraud, and over 1,000 people have been prosecuted and found guilty in these cases of voter fraud in the last 5 or 6 years. Check it out. It's real, man. But I guess we should never fear. Joe is here. I can see Trump, man, hunkered down in the bunker of the White House. I'm not leaving. And Joe Biden leading the charge, man. The comments followed a recent video in which a puffy-eyed Donald Trump Jr. warned darkly, the radical left are laying the groundwork to steal this election from my father, President Donald Trump. I wish I could do a Darth Vader voice. That's probably be better. We cannot let that happen, Mr. Donald Trump Jr. said. We need every able-bodied man, woman to join for Trump's election security operation. Well, Billy Bob here, like I was telling you, he just tells me we actually have a picture of Donald Trump Jr. giving this speech. Do we have that picture of him? Here he is. There's Donald Trump Jr. giving his speech, freedom, and rallying there's all of Donald Trump's poll watchers in the back there. I wonder if they're all Scottish, and a few of them are Irish. But it's a joke, okay? I got to say the caveat, it's a joke. But anyway, we're just about out of time, man. They say here, let me just read this part and we'll end this story and close the show in a minute. To this end, the Trump campaign and the RNC, oh my God, that evil organization, are reportedly hold your breath, are working to raise 50,000 volunteers. Yet most states have strict rules to prevent partisan election monitors interfering with the process. 50,000 volunteers to watch polls. Do you know how many polls there are in the United States? 50,000. If they get 50,000, they'll still leave 99% of them uncovered, man. It is crazy. They're poll watchers, man. Or maybe they're the Trump army. Maybe that's what it is. This is what they really fear. The Trump army, man. And I was going to do some more, but I want to close out with this last story, man. So let me just sum it up this way. They're looking for poll watchers and poll workers, period. It's nothing scarier than that. And the Democrats are doing the same thing. The Democrats have actually hired voter protection directors. That's what they claim. So they're hiring voter protection directors. Well, that's not in the normal statutes, but probably Antifa. It's probably Antifa is going to be their voter protection deal. All right, we're going to close out the show with this last story. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. I said Hollywood may be dying, and I'm not wishing that Hollywood die, but it seems like they might be, a victim of their own hubris or whatever. Regal Cinemas suspending operations at all U.S. locations. Regal Cinemas, I can tell you, it says here they're the second largest cinema chain in the U.S., is closing all of its locations nationwide after reopening in August, escalating the pandemic-driven crisis facing the entertainment industry. Well, for me, it's tragic, man, because Regal Cinemas is the only cinemas in my whole area. I think there may be an AMC theater about 30 miles from me, but in the whole area that I'm in, it's all Regal Cinemas. So if they go under, where am I going to watch a movie, man? Cineworld Group is 12.8% PCL's Regal Entertainment Group's decision to suspend operations in more than 500 locations coming Thursday follows a cascade of postponement for big-budget Hollywood films, most recently the James Bond, which I'm a big fan of, No Time to Die. There's two reasons why they're struggling about this. One of them is even when they're reopening, they're typically being allowed to only maybe 25% capacity. Well, let me tell you, theaters, they've been allowed in Florida to open at 25% capacity for a while, but none of them are really opening because they can't make any money at 25%. They lose money because most of the theaters, their money they make is off their $10 popcorn, not the price of the ticket. Most of that goes back to Hollywood and everything. So they can't make any money on the 25%. And without product, like any other business, they can't sell what they don't have. So if they don't have these big blockbuster movies coming out like James Bond and all that, they can't make any money. So Hollywood may be going by the wayside because of their own BS. I don't wish that because Hollywood, love it, hate it, whatever, produces a ton of jobs. It is a huge job producer across the country and brings in tons of revenue and tax money if you Democrats like all that stuff. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, share it with others. Check out our YouTube channel. Check us out on America's Voice News. Check out our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, at the top of the show in the show description. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for the president, even if you don't like him, the president, whoever. It's our president, no matter who. We only have one at a time. Let's pray for Donald and Melania Trump that they get through this. Pray for the nation. She certainly deserves it. And as I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, including the Trumps, have a blessed day.